So, something really interesting happened recently. I was giving a guest lecture at a university, teaching students the evolution of digital marketing. I shared how today's marketers are leveraging new technologies. We talk about things like using GPT-4 to conduct behavioral analysis, using TikTok Symphony to create compelling ads, and many other conversion strategies. At the end of the class, a final year student came up to me and said, "I feel like what you taught in this class is the kind of thing that we should be learning at university, because it's relevant to what we'll be doing in our future careers. But we're barely exposed to this kind of knowledge. What do you think about that?" The conversation made me reflect a lot because, first, I had exactly the same feeling when I was in university over a decade ago. And second, we talked about this feeling here, in this channel, 4 years ago. But when I rewatched that video from 2020, I realized that my opinions have changed. That's due to the conversations I've had with all of you, how the world has changed, and the experience of making this channel over the past few years. Since I was young, I know that I'm not an academic person. No matter how hard I tried, I could never get the top rank. I stayed above the average, but grade-wise, there was always someone better. On the other hand, I've always been good at practical skills. I prefer trying different things and analyzing an experience myself, rather than learning the theories first. When facing uncertainties, I don't care much about theories. I just evaluate the cost and then give it a try. I decided to study abroad because of this instinct. When I was doing my first bachelor's in China, I researched different education systems. I had read and heard a lot about how Western education focuses on practical value. I had a big, rosy dream that this would be better for me. Knowing that scholarships and part-time work would make it affordable, I applied right away. A decade later, looking back, were the differences true? Yes, I know. Yes, because the workload was way heavier than in my first bachelor's program. Much like my high school experience, plus a lot of presentations, social networking, and paperwork. So it did level up my skills at certain points. But no, because most students face exactly the same challenges. They're concerned about whether their major matches their goals. They don't know what they're looking for. They find a job they don't like. And many are stressed about even getting a job because of the economy. More interestingly, last month, Gallup released a follow-up survey about how much confidence US adults have in the value of higher education. 10 years ago, the ratio of thumbs up to thumbs down was nearly 6-to-1. But today, it's almost 1-to-1. To sum it up, the environment is different, but most people feel the same way. They don't feel they've gotten much from their universities that's valuable to their future. So how should we approach this situation? Especially for people who are currently enrolled in universities, about to get enrolled, or have just graduated. What can we do to positively influence our future? My simple answer is, do something as soon as possible. Don't be afraid, don't do nothing, and don't just think. I'll explain this from different perspectives. First, we can never close the information gap in our careers, but the only way to overcome it is by constantly learning new things. The term information gap has become popular in the last few years. Some people believe that filling this gap will make them rich or successful. We often feel that we haven't learned the most up-to-date information because the world is changing so fast. We are afraid our industry may decline in a few years. We are afraid AI may replace our jobs. So we all want to pick the right industry and learn everything about AI to protect ourselves. But the reality is, we just won't be able to fill that gap. When I started working in digital marketing, we were mainly doing blogs. Video content wasn't even a trend. TikTok didn't exist. Generative AI. Companies were completely lost about what to do with AI. Well, many still are today. As these technologies and platforms arose, we had to constantly change our strategies to adapt. Did we learn any of this in class? Not at all. None of this was what I signed up for when I chose marketing. But if we think from the opposite side, all these things also add value to our careers. Google handles 5.9 million search queries every minute, and 15% of them have never been searched before. That means there are 1.2 billion new questions waiting to be answered every day. That's a lot of business and learning potential. The more problems, questions, and challenges we tackle and adapt to, the less we feel threatened. The problem is, most of these potentials do not come from higher education, but are built on a foundation that higher education provides. This leads to our second point. Learning from examples is the most important part of growth, but most people simplify or even ignore this. It's like, We hear about the theory a long time ago, but we never seem able to quote or apply it in real life. People often ask me, what do you do as a consultant? Some consultants would say, well, we analyze your problems using ABC methods, and we leverage our database and expertise to provide the best solution for you. But I explain it very differently. I say, imagine someone asks you to decorate a new house. You ask them what kind of house they want, and they say, I want a nice one. Great, but hell, that doesn't mean anything to me. So my job is to take their idea of a nice house and turn it into something specific, like a black-themed, industry-style house with certain furnitures and decorations. In the end, we're talking about the same thing. But the feelings and experiences are very different for the audience. The first explanation is more like what we can learn from academic study, while the second one is more like what it looks like in real life. Simplifying complexities is very important in differentiating a person's experience and skill set. This skill cannot be achieved without understanding examples, finding similarities between different situations, and applying them in real life. When preparing a lecture, I review the course outline and find the best materials to share with the students. Through years of experience, I've noticed a very important fact. No matter how the world changes, we always have different examples that follow the same principles. It's much like what we see in video comments. People often say, we learned this from our ancestors, or someone talked about this a long time ago. We understand things better when someone explains them, but we can't always identify them on our own. Is that because we don't know what they are? It's because we haven't experienced them. We haven't spent enough time reflecting on our experiences. If you haven't done consulting or see how an interior designer works, of course you won't be able to relate the similarities. I'm not saying that theories aren't important, but theories don't mean much without examples to support them. Especially for college students, you have plenty of flexibility to try different things instead of betting on your hope to a degree. For students interested in media marketing, I always encourage them to start their own channel. You don't need to achieve anything specific through trying. Just see how it works for yourself. Have your own opinions. And when you come back to learn more, you'll notice you can easily relate the course material because you have experienced it yourself. When you're watching this video, you might agree or disagree with my opinions. But whether your response is positive or negative, at least you've gone through the thinking process, reflected on your reasoning, and come up with your own conclusions. That's vastly different from people who just skim the content, skip the thinking process, and want to jump straight to conclusions. And I think that's why, even with the same level of education under the same conditions, people end up with different results. The third point is, nothing is impossible. The only question is, at what cost? We've probably all heard this before, but to me, it's not just a motto. Every time I hear someone say, this is impossible to do, my first reaction is, I'd challenge you on that. I see every consulting opportunity as a challenge. Whether it's in career or business consulting, I like to ask a lot of whys. When someone tells me they don't know what they're looking for, or their major is too niche, or it's too hard to switch careers, I keep asking them, why? Why do you think you don't know? Why do you think it's too niche? Why do you think you can't switch? Most of the time, it boils down to the same conclusion. Their capacity isn't enough to match their desire, and they haven't taken enough actions to build that capability. My takeaway is this: don't let "this is too hard" or "this is impossible" stop you. Instead, dig deeper, find the solution, and evaluate its costs to make an informed decision. Even if in the end you don't achieve it, at least you'll know that it's not because you were trapped by the situation, but because you consciously chose not to pursue it due to its costs. There is a huge difference between being constrained by circumstances and being in control of your decisions. In the end, it's not about whether something is doable. It's all about evaluation and decision making. The last thing I want to share is that we don't need to follow others' steps, but we need to allow ourselves to make mistakes. I remember 4 years ago, some people commented on my video saying, I was lucky to know what I was looking for. I felt so too for a while, but now, 4 years later, I realized that I was wrong. I don't always know what I'm looking for, but I do know what I want to try at every moment. In fact, I don't think anyone knows exactly what they're looking for because it's a relative term, and it changes over time. The fun part about making this channel is that we all witness each other's growth. Over the past few years, I've seen so many people, including myself, go through cycles of up and downs. We were so passionate about something at the beginning, then gradually lost interest. either because it wasn't what we expected or something new came along. When we were younger, many of us would have been mad at ourselves. We thought we weren't good enough or we had let ourselves down. But the more failures we experience, the more we realize it's normal. We thought we chose the wrong major, the wrong job, the wrong company, or even the wrong partner. In the end, these thoughts are just feedback we give ourselves, telling us we either need to adjust our expectations or try something new. I always compare careers to relationships. When we start a new connection, we both have good intentions, but there are so many factors that can lead us to different destinations. Separation isn't necessarily a bad thing, and it doesn't mean the decision we made was wrong either. I use the word mistake here because that's what most people call it. To me, there aren't mistakes. There are awakening signals telling us it's time to make some changes. And to receive those signals, we need to take action first. Choosing a major or even a career that we end up not liking is totally fine, because that point marks the first adjustment to our future path. Looking back, when I was a student, I complained a lot about the education system, saying it wasn't fair, but I couldn't change it. So I started focusing more on myself rather than the system. I tried to ignore the noise, keep myself away from the negativity, and just try different things. Most of them didn't cost much, just a bit of effort, like making this channel. And I think in the end, that's where life started to shift in a positive direction. Those are my thoughts. If you have questions you'd like to hear others' opinions on, or if you want to share your own story to inspire others, feel free to comment below. That's why we're all here on this channel. This is a channel that is growing with you. I'm Shasharai. See you in the next episode.